Resident Evil.
Hello, and welcome to the Poison Paint Factory. My factory designated name is Poison226. Nice to meet you. You find yourself in a city. There are alarms blaring, people screaming, creatures in the dark. A virus is ripping through the living, and the dead don't stay dead for long. What do you do? Well, let's say you decide the best action is to face the situation head on. You successfully dispatch some of these living dead. Maybe things are looking up for you. You might just make it out of here alive.
Stars.
What the?
Stars.
It's getting closer.
Stars.
A behemoth bursts through the wall next to you. Debris and dust pepper you. You are flung like a rag doll by the next impact. Your world goes dim. The sound of sirens start to fade. The heat from the fire begins to cool on your skin. Heavy footsteps fall. The vibration echoes through your chest, into your ears. The last thing you hear before you pass out is one final word.
Stars.
What if Nemesis completed his mission and killed the members of Stars? What would he do next? What if he overruled his programming? Who would be his next target? And what if Nemesis fought jasonvoorhees? Who would win? We had to cut a few questions due to time constraints, but if you're interested in where Nemesis would most likely holiday, and what zodiac sign he's most compatible with, that's a Stars joke, you'll have to wait for the follow-up video, unfortunately. Importantly though, before we answer these questions, let's discuss the monster Nemesis and his place in the Resident Evil franchise. So we're heading to Raccoon City for this video, but before we do, please spare a moment for today's sponsor.
Imagine a world where you are no longer in complete control. A world where stress, anxiety, and death are a thing of the past. Imagine a major corporation not caring about putting you and your family first. Well, today I'm here to tell you our dream,
your nightmare,
is made real. Here at UmbrellaCorp, we strive to create excellent products to make your lives
shorter,
easier. And because we put you, the consumer,
guinea pig,
first, you'll find everything in our range affordable and life-changing. From humble cleaning products to pet care, food, right through to our revolutionary anti-aging skincare range, Regenerate, which brings dead cells,
literally,
back to life. Always consult a doctor before trying a new skincare regime. Some side effects may occur. Umbrella. Our business is life itself.
Disclaimer: A lot of the information presented in this video is public information that I researched alongside my interpretations and opinions. Sources will be linked in the description, and yes, there will be spoilers. So, with all that said, let's get on with it. Who is, or what is, Nemesis? Nemesis looks like this, or this, or this. He has a black trench coat that almost looks like a butcher's apron, a humanoid head with a lipless mouth. He's always showing his pearly whites in a form of grimace. Why when I say grimace I think of this? Well, anyway. He has staples stitching the right side of his face shut, covering one eye. And he's generally found with his trusty rocket launcher slung over his shoulder while shouting, "Stars!" This is just his first form though. We'll get to the other forms later. Nemesis is also known as the Nemesis T-type, pursuer or chaser, for reasons that will become apparent shortly. He reminds me of a tyrant made during crunch, his stitching and bare muscle showing. What he might lack in the looks department, he makes up for sheer tenacity and intellect. Well, everything's relevant when you're comparing something to zombies and failed experiments. Speaking of experiments, in the original story for Resident Evil 3, Nemesis was created by infecting a T-103 model tyrant and the Nemesis alpha parasite. In the remake, the tyrant was combined with a genetically engineered copy of the Las Plagas parasite. You know, the big wormy head thing from Resident Evil 4. Similar but different enough to warrant a mention. Well, Nemesis lives up to his name, coming after the player over and over during the campaign. At the time of the original release of RE3, this was the first time a monster would do this in a series and was genuinely scary for gamers, as most enemies in the game, whilst having to be pumped full of lead to be put down, at least they stayed down. But Nemesis, because of his healing factor, could keep getting back up, and the pursuit of doom would continue. And we're not talking about an inevitable shuffling kind of doom, we're talking full-on sprinting after you kind of doom. All aboard the doom train, next stop, annihilation for you. Woo woo! This wasn't without issue though, as over the course of the game he would mutate from this into this. And then finally, this. Both the original RE3 game and the remake capture the terrifying fear of being hunted by an unkillable enemy. The tension as you wander the streets of Raccoon City is palpable. When will Nemesis show up again? What weapon will he be carrying? And what will he do if we don't get out of the way in time? Nemesis is relentless, and throughout both games his threat level gradually rises. The intensity of the encounters increases, and hope that he may be defeated diminishes, like the dying light of a lighter flame. I'm not going to talk about the story of RE3 here today. 1, because I want to focus on Nemesis himself, and 2, because I have a lot more RE characters I'd like to talk about at a later date who have a greater impact on the story. So we'll save plot analysis for another time.
Stars. Stars!
Stars! Stars! Stars!
Stars!
I guess it makes sense to talk about the movie adaptation of Nemesis next. To try and be fair with my overview, I decided to re-watch RE2, or Resident Evil Apocalypse if you'd prefer. Unfortunately, it's one of those movies that seems to get worse each time I watch it. Now, I'm by far the last person you should take movie recommendations from. See my last video where I recommend Jason X. But even with its late 90s, early 2000s charm, Resident Evil Apocalypse can't win me over, and it's a difficult watch. The acting is fine, the movie is weak and dumb, and Jill gets sidelined for Alice, which actually upsets me more than I'd like to admit, and the special effects are about standard for this time. Some of the camera angles are quite interesting and inventive, so there's a plus. But the big negatives for me personally is that Alice, who isn't a character in the games, takes too much of the screen time from the actual game characters. And the second thing is the weak fight scenes. For an action horror movie, the fights are disinteresting. They lack tension and are as choppy as a butcher. But you're not here for this, are you? What about Nemesis, Well, he is the main antagonist, and in all honesty, they nailed the look. He is big. His looks are pulled directly from the game, and he does exactly what you expect him to. But they have him move at a pace that would make Colin say, "Dude, get on with it." And they try and make him a sympathetic character, which I think is a mistake. Here's a quick rundown of Nemesis's role in the movie. Matt, who was Alice's love interest in the first RE movie, was scratched by a licker and starts to show signs of mutation. He was then taken off on a stretcher by scientists and put into the Nemesis program. The next time you see him is just over 30 minutes in, and he's on an operating table. Lights come on, and he is activated. His eye opens. Jump forward, and there are some generic STARS operatives holed up in the Westwood Theatre, and a pair of big black boots come into shot. As he strides towards his target, he is shot in the chest by a sniper on the roof. He doesn't even slow. He makes short work of all the STARS survivors with his rocket launcher and minigun. With his targets destroyed, there is a cool shot of Nemesis walking away, leaving the sole civilian, the only survivor. It's another 10 minutes before we see our hero again. Jill runs away. Nemesis fights Alice. He smashes through a wall. Classic. Later, Nemesis is shown walking towards the escape chopper. The mist and silhouette is a nice touch. He stands there awkwardly and is told to drop his weapons by the main baddie. He does, because Nemesis is a good boy.
Oh yes he is, Nemesis is a good boy.
We get Alice versus Nemesis again to find out once and for all who is the better umbrella creation. Nemesis starts strong in hand-to-hand combat, but begins being beaten, so he resorts to cheating and turns a metal bar into a makeshift machete. Again, he starts to win, Then he gets kicked into the obvious exposed metal shard in the wall. He just seems to stand there impaled for a bit.
Just a flesh wound.
He's obviously considering his life choices and what led him to this point, I guess. He remembers Alice and who he was. He decides to free himself and pick up his trusty minigun. He is ordered to kill Alice. Again. But after she refused to kill him, he repays the favour by killing her captives. He drops the empty gun, takes some chest shots for his troubles, then shoots a helicopter with a rocket launcher, to which it comes down on top of him. And that was Nemesis in the live-action movie. What a lame end to such a cool character. This is an arcade light gun game, and was later ported to the PS2, where you can play as Claire Redfield looking for her brother Chris. You know, the usual. If you take too long on a stage, Nemesis appears and comes after you. I personally haven't played it, but I hear that it's equivalent of Dino Stalker to the Dino Crisis franchise, with it being a spin-off and, spoiler, in 3, 2, 1, all being a dream. I wish I was kidding. It holds no bearing on the main series continuity, but it features Nemesis, so there you go. From dreams to what-if scenarios. RE Orc is a third-person shooter set between the events of RE2 and RE3. You play as Delta Team, aka Wolfpack, who work for Umbrella. Your goal? To clean up the mess and all evidence of Umbrella's contribution to it. If you don't fancy being the baddies, you can play as Echo 6, who are working for the US government and trying to expose Umbrella for what they've done. Well, you could play as them if you pay £8 per level. At least they give you the first one for free, so, you know. The game itself is fine. From what I remember, it was too slow, repetitive and dull to keep my interest for long, but the concept of playing the villains, the fact that it had offline couch co-op, and great character designs, well, it has its positives is what I'm saying. I couldn't recommend it to the casual gamer, but if you're a die-hard fan of RE, there's probably something you'll enjoy in there for you. Oh yeah, Nemesis is in this game too, because he helps sell units, I guess. For one of your missions, you are told to help repair the Nemesis, as he will attack anything in his damaged state. While wielding his trusty minigun in a warehouse, he shoots at anything that moves. If you defeat him, he resets, picking up his iconic missile launcher and seen wandering off in search of STARS members.
And that's the end of that chapter.
But wait! There's more!
I'm quickly going to risk everything for you now to talk about the game music, or more specifically, Nemesis. Nemesis? Nemesises? Nemesis? The big guy's muscle themes. He gets a couple of different themes in the original game. The first kicks off when he's chasing you during the main segments, and instantly causes dread as you know what you're in for.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
But what I really want to talk about is his final theme. If you've played the games, you know exactly why I want to talk about it. The score is on par with the Final Fantasy boss battle themes in scope and epicness. Metamorphosis, as it's called, starts with foreboding beats and extended synths, and builds becoming almost biblical with trumpet-like sounds and a choir. The whole time the bass and cymbals are kicking you in the lugholes. It's a wonderful score that is only right for such a badass boss. The remake takes these musical cues as a starting point and goes further with it. The beginning has a wonderful piano refrain while cymbals crash. The pitter-patter of the rain before the storm, lightning punctuating the point. That is until Metamorphosis builds with its strings until the crescendo. The choir is still there in all its glory, totally selling the threat that Nemesis has become. An almost titanic level of threat, if you will. Honestly, both versions of this song are an absolute treat, and I couldn't recommend checking them out highly enough. To explain the medium, a manhwa is the Chinese equivalent of a Japanese manga. For those who don't know what a manga is, basically it's the Japanese equivalent of a comic book, but are usually printed in black and white and found serialized in magazines, or released in tankobon volumes, which are paperback collections. Oh, and you read them backwards, because Japanese writing reads from right to left. So American comic, to this Japanese manga, to this manhwa. Okay? So now we're on the same page. The 23-issue manhwa was written by this person, and drawn by this person, and published by this publishing house, in 1999. It differs to the game quite dramatically from what I can tell. It shows how Nemesis lost an eye, it was Jill. Nemesis and William Birkin fight, so there's a heavy crossover from games 2 and 3. Oh, and there are 4 Nemesis T-types being developed by Umbrella. They all remember their previous lives, leading to one of them rebelling and being destroyed by Umbrella. If you want to read a fan-translated version of the first couple of volumes, I've linked them in the description for your entertainment. I'm not sure who these are for, but Resident Evil franchise novelised its games and films. So we have a book for RE3, which has Nemesis in his pursuing role, and a book based on the Apocalypse movie, which is what it says it is. I'm sure there are people out there who've read these, but I truly don't understand why you would choose to read them when you could just play the game or watch the movie. Let me know if you have read these books and why in the comments, you strange, strange people, you. There are hundreds of Nemesis toys and merch out there, but here are a few of my favourites.
A large statue. A rubber ducky. Sushi plushie. Final form figurine. Action figure. Autistic bust. Chibi statue. Collectible figurine. travel pillow, the best of Nemesis on vinyl, stickers, pop figure, cuddly toy, statue featuring Brad, stylish cufflinks, t-shirt, small beanie baby, car sticker, new figurine featuring rocket launcher, clothing patch.
I'm starting to feel a bit peckish. Excuse me a moment while I catch a quick bite to be itchy. Tasty. There have been a few Capcom temporary eateries. Even Biohazard has had a couple. The latest being the RE3 event in 2020 between April and May at the Capcom Café in Ikebukuro to promote the RE3 remake game getting a release that year. But perhaps, due to the real-life virus, I can't actually find out much about it beyond some menu items. There's a Jill sandwich on the menu, obviously. Opening on Friday 13th July 2012 and located on the 7th floor of a shopping mall in Japan's Shibuya district. The Biohazard Cafe and Grill was dedicated to, well, Resident Evil. It had a menu with items named from the franchise, and the decor was based around the events of the Raccoon City incident, basically 1998. There's a life-size tyrant who comes to life via lights and projections and is used as part of a stage show. There's dancing. That's the Stars girls, not the tyrant. And it ends with him being defeated and high fives being handed out to all the Patreons. Joking aside, it's pretty typical of these Gentai establishments, or what might be called pop-up or gimmick shops. They tend to last about a year, and it's usually based on a gimmick or to promote an upcoming release or something. The food looks well themed, and there seems to have been quite a lot of love and attention to detail when it comes to the theming. So I can actually imagine there would be quite a lot to take away from the experience. Or at least you could pick up some commemorative swag from the shop. If Nemesis killed all the Stars members, what would happen next? What would he do? Well, look at Nemesis. His appearance seems rushed, with bare muscle and stitching showing. So I can imagine that his programming might be a bit basic and rushed too. Maybe his AI input wouldn't be much more detailed than special agents equal threat, kill threat. Therefore, his next target would be UBCS operatives. He seems to understand command structure, so Nikolai, being sergeant, would probably be one of his primary targets. After he picks off the UBCS team, I would assume Umbrella would be getting nervous and would probably send other bioweapons to take Nemesis out. We could assume that with his superior intellect and understanding of combat strategies, Umbrella would potentially have to send several tyrants at once to take him down. Eventually, I imagine the Nemesis would succumb to his various wounds and mutate into his final form, to which he would be a sitting target to a massive missile strike reminiscent to the end of the game. Oh, and Nemesis vs. Jason? Both are unkillable monsters, but assuming Nemesis took enough damage, it's fair to assume he would mutate into his unstable final form. If he became big enough, he might be able to crush Jason with enough force that there wouldn't be enough of Jason to reanimate. Therefore, I tally this up as Nemesis 1, Jason 0. Did we hit all the points you want to discuss today? I think we covered most things, but I'm bound to have missed something out. Why not leave a comment with what else you would have liked me to cover? Oh, and while you're here, why don't you try and guess how this video connects with the last franchise I talked about? What has Friday 13th and Nemesis got in common? It could be something really obvious or particularly obscure, who knows? Maybe you? Let me know what your best guess is in the comments. And so, with all that said, thank you for your time. I wish you a good day and many more besides. Yours, forever in horror, 226.